today we are joined by the holder of forbidden knowledge, Billy Carson, and we are getting to the bottom of all the conspiracies. We got Antarctica, ancient civilizations, we got the pyramids, we got black dick length, and Billy Carson is going to fill us all in. Take us back to Anunnaki. What are they? Well, are these giant?
Yeah. Okay. The Anunnaki, they are these beings that came from off-world.
So these are aliens.
These are aliens. Now, what's interesting about these aliens is that they're not little green men with antenna. Yeah. They're actually hominids, bilateral bipedal hominids. They look just like us.
Okay.
You slice them in half. They have two forward-face-looking eyes, two hands, legs.
But do they look more like us?
We look like them.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we have their genetics and their DNA inside of our bodies. Now, what's interesting is these beings were a spacefaring race that broke away from the Pleiadian star system. Now, these stars in ancient times, according to ancient texts and tablets, there was an ancient galactic war there.
Okay.
Most of the information from Star Wars comes from this text. And this war, they don't call them that, but they call them the Brahma Astra and Brahma Astra Honda weapons that actually can release a weapon that can destroy planets.
Okay.
Imagine if you were in a star system and a planet is being blown up and you're in a nearby planet.
You get the fuck out of it.
This created something called space refugees.
Where are you getting this information again?
The Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas.
So these are ancient Indian texts, 5,000 years ago. Okay.
And the Enuma Elish, Marian.
So you come across this and you're like, okay, let me see if there's some truth to this because I'm seeing this across multiple ancient Indian texts. Any other texts referencing this?
The Hopi tribe elders have written this book based on that text and published it, actually. It's called the Terra Papers. And so, you start looking at this information. That was more recent. I mean, when I say recent, it's not as ancient. But the account of Plato's account of Atlantis is not that ancient. But we're talking about the Ring City, but that was just one capital. They were on every continent, every single continent. We're standing on Atlantis right now. We're sitting right on top of Atlantis.
It was New York.
Yes, everyone on this planet is on top of Atlantis. So when you start to look at the Americas, you discover that there were so many pyramids in the Americas. There were literally thousands of them. The Catholic Church blew up the tops of these pyramids and built churches on top of them.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Mark, bro. I was raised Catholic. They never told us that.
No, they won't tell you. They just know that we gotta eradicate this civilization science because we want to impose our will on the people. Those older ones. If you go to Mexico City, how I learned this, I went to Mexico City. I got a homegrown archaeologist. He was showing me one of the altars. He said these people were so dumb. He says they would line up in ancient times for miles to bring their best offerings to the head god. Wow. And the god was just putting them all this food in the storehouses at these temples. They would put these things in there. Then they had these other areas underneath the temple where other priests would go underneath and speak, and it would resonate their voice, and it would be the voice of God talking. Nothing but a sham to get them to bring all this food and gold and offerings and everything else.
And those similar stories are higher intelligence comes to us, bestows upon us this wisdom after the floods.
The Lakota tribe, the Hopi tribe, the Dogon tribe of Africa, the Aboriginals. I could keep going on and on and on. Matter of fact, the verbal handed down history of the Aboriginals, because I've been there before and hung out, went for a walkabout in the outback with the Aboriginals and went on a trail to go find proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs, which we did stumble across and get them documented, that they were seated on this planet by Pleiadians.
Pleiadians
from the Pleiades.
Got you.
The same people that the Sumerians talk about, they call it Mo in the ancient texts.
You talked about Jesus, where he went from like 12 to like 32.
Yeah. Went to go learn spirituality.
He went to Tibet.
And mystic arts. Yes, mystic arts. And then he went down into India, learned about reincarnation and all of that. And then he came back down and he reappears in the biblical text when God says in the Bible, I called my son out of Egypt. He learned Reiki healing in Tibet and, energy healing with his hands. The mystic arts, I have to correct myself, the mystic arts he learned in India. Well, there's the records have been kept. There's complete records. And even the Dalai Lama confirmed that he was in Tibet at one time.
Really?
Yeah. Well, Enki liked human women.
Oh, really?
So did Thoth.
So it was that. It's that
Thoth married
simple.
Maat.
Really?
And he built the Pyramid of the Moon at Teotihuacan as a dedication to her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What happened to all the Anunnaki and Thoth and all them?
They had two wars. The first Pyramid War almost eradicated them, but they started over again. The second Pyramid War, bad. That one almost decimated the planet. You see how when you look at Earth, like from Google Earth, you see a lot of those big deserts going across. People say, oh, that's just natural geological formations over time. This has become an arid desert. No, that's war. If you go to Egypt and stick your hand deep in the sands, eventually you're going to come up with balls of glass, 3,000 plus degree temperatures. You go to Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, dead bodies still in the streets from thousands of years ago, still holding hands, never been scavenged. The buildings that they lived in turned to glass. How can that be? We're talking about 3,000 plus degree temperature weapons fire. We're talking about this war that happened in the ancient past, like the Great Pyramid, over 2 million blocks of stone, and nobody realized that they're all different. Each individual stone is totally different from the other one, which means you can't make a cookie cutter and say, okay, we got these blocks ready, let's stack them up. Didn't quite work that way because they're all different. Now you have to take into consideration also the subterranean part of the Great Pyramid, like the subterranean shaft, which cuts through solid stone and goes down 65 meters, then another 30 meters down beneath that, which I've been down there. How in the world did they cut that through solid stones that were already stacked? Some type of a laser cutting tool. And if you look at the mud ramp theory, the floating theory is a farce. You can't float these stones.
But the idea is that you could float them up the Nile,
Right.
so they weren't. Because the original theory, I think, was that they were rolling them across the sand, and people were like, "How could you possibly do that?"
Rolling
But the floating theory, I guess, makes sense in terms of a human's capability to move a heavy object.
Yeah, but you have to displace the mass.
Right.
What are you displacing mass with for that level of mass in water? When I went to Angkor Wat, before I get back to the pyramids, I took people on a big tour of Angkor Wat.
What is Angkor Wat?
That's the largest temple complex in the world, located in Cambodia.
Oh, wow.
And it's a pyramidal type structure. It's got the 3 rises on it. And it looks like poured rock. It's massive. It's megalithic. The X-Men mansion is based on this thing.
Can we bring that up?
2 words. Angkor, A-N-G-K-O-R, then Wat. They said the gods built it in a day and a night. Now, look at that moat. This moat, which goes around Angkor Wat, I forget how many hectares it is, but it's more mass of mud removed to create that moat around Angkor Wat than the pyramid itself.
Oh, so the moat isn't natural?
No, it's man-made.
What?
It's more mass than the Great Pyramid by multitudes. They had to excavate. And then the bent pyramid is not bent because it was an accident. They got the angle wrong. That's baloney. The bent pyramid was told to me by one of my mentors, who was a homegrown Egyptologist that passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately, bless his soul. It's a diagnostics tool.
What about Antarctica?
Oh, Antarctica is crazy. First of all, Antarctica wasn't in that location. It was in a more hospitable location. The animals are coming up out of the melting ice. And so they take them to do autopsies on them, and they have undigested food in their throats and their stomachs. So what does that tell you? They were flash frozen. So now we're talking about tectonic plate slippage. We're talking about a huge continent slipping and moving into a different position, probably within hours, not even days, and creating a global flood. And when that water washes across that land with that cold air and that wind, everything is frozen very rapidly. So this is why those animals have undigested food, because they were frozen extremely fast. And the Antarctica was in a more hospitable location.